So I kind of ran through their list, and obviously they had a very simplified version of the Entertainer. It was something like, and I didn't realize there was actually, I thought that was the piece. You know, I didn't realize there's an original composition of that. So I started picking up those little pieces, and then I realized, like, you know, this is something I really enjoy doing. So after elementary school, I got into middle school, and I realized I have to teach myself how to learn music. Um, I did not have the luxury of having a piano teacher, you know, paying for lessons. And to this day, I don't know how much they cost. I know they're quite expensive. I don't know what it was back then, you know, during the mid 90s, early, you know, I don't know how much it cost, but I'm sure it was quite a bit. Something that my parents could not really accommodate me with. So what I did was I had them drop them off, had them drop. So what I did was I had them drop me off at the local library. You know, you have a public library card, completely free. And I also had them drop me off at Barnes and Nobles for a few hours. And they would pick me up, and I was like, Mom, can you drop me off at this time and pick me up 3 hours later? So in the library, I found these booklets that are kind of self-beginner, how to teach yourself piano. And that's where I started reading through. And, you know, back then there was no internet. You know, right now it's so different having YouTube that it really accelerates your self-taught process. You know, it's amazing the content that's out there that can really teach you how to play music. But I had to teach myself through the books. Sometimes I rented out the books, other times I just made copies, and I just kept reading about the music theory and just figuring out, like, okay, so as far as, you know, the top line, what is that? Is that a treble clef, and this is a bass clef? And just learning how to read, and I can show you guys up close how I eventually ended up doing. So learning the music theory was just under those tutorial books. And what I did was, when I was ready to apply those concepts to the pieces I wanted to play, I would go, I mean, obviously I had to start with these pieces, like, you know, some late Beethoven sonatas or Liszt etudes or anything like that. I started learning, you know, simplified versions of Mozart, of Entertainer, Fur-Elise. Obviously, everyone at one point wants to learn Fur-Elise. And I started counting out the notes, and I would go to the second floor, and back then we had cassette recorders and maybe CDs, I believe, that we could listen to. So it was the same process where I printed out or made photocopies of the sheet music, because sheet music was available in the library, or it had enough time, because there's a time limit when you can have these books for it. I know it takes me a long time to figure it out. So I made copies of it, and I brought my sheet music up to the second floor. I put on my earphones, and I listened to it, and I looked at the sheet music and see how it corresponds. I'll try to memorize it, and then I go back home and I practice on my little tiny piano. Like, I'll try. And I just keep doing it until I finally hit where it really is. And I was like, I think this is it. Like, I'll run through all the keys until I get every single one of those melodies correct. And I would try to confirm myself on the sheet music based on what I've read. So it was a very long, arduous process, but I didn't really have many options. You know, I didn't have the luxury of having someone to help me out with that back then. So that's basically how I learned it. And I can show you guys. So let's take